Let's finish this. Let's fucking go! Yes! I don't think... You know what? I gotta go back for that, because... Perhaps there is something maternal in the act of brushing one's hair, which is wont to summoning forth such images. I would not know, personally. I cannot remember my own mother at all. I don't think I liked having my hair brushed very much. The gravedigger continues, her breath warm against the exposed nape of your neck. My mother used to complain that I squirmed too much. I can remember that. Cool. Welcome back, Greg. She always told me, sit still. It wasn't my fault I squirmed. She used too much force. Now, this is curious. It sounds as though the reminiscences of the gravedigger are not particularly fond, after all. If nobody else clipped it, I will after the fact, because, man, that was a moment. Did she not get along well with her mother? I can't rightly say. The gravedigger replies in a somber sort of voice. I was young, like I said, when she died. I really don't remember her too well. But I don't think she ever had that much time for me. She was too busy with all the cooking and the cleaning, and looking after my baby brothers. But she had time enough, despite that, to brush her hair. She did what she felt she had to, make me look presentable. Not that it really worked. I wasn't like the other girls in the village, you see, who liked to sit indoors with their mothers and sew. I'd always loved the outdoors. My father said I inherited that from him. Ruefully, the gravedigger smiled. Not that you can see it with your back facing her. My mother said I wasn't very, maidenly. She didn't like that. She didn't like that I always traipsed around outside after my father, watching as he dug graves. She said it wasn't appropriate, like I was some sort of princess wearing a fine dress. The gravedigger snorts. I used to get a bit muddy, yes, and maybe I did get burrs in my clothes and knots in my hair, but it shouldn't have mattered. It's not like I ever had any hopes of marrying a prince, no matter what my mother said. But still, she hoped. She had a lot of hopes, my mother. High hopes. I think she might have resented my father, maybe, for working such a menial job. Our profession is an honest one, but it's never made much money. I think my mother was hoping for fine jewels and dresses, and I don't know, she always had ideas. Her head was full of fairy tales. It was a shame, I suppose, that her reality didn't match up to what she wanted. I didn't match up to what she wanted. The bitterness in your friend's voice is unmistakable. So much so, you want to console her. What would you say to her, though? You never met your companion's mother. You never will, either. Her cold, inert body has been laying in the graveyard, buried beneath a tombstone, for over a decade. You have no way of ascertaining whether your companion's mother truly cared for her. You do have intelligence enough, however, to understand that poorly thought-out condolences can cause more harm than good. Ouch. Sorry to hear that, Zoe. You would not like it if people tried to reassure you that, of course, your father loved you. Really? Yes, Libitina. I did ping, didn't I? Did I ping? I thought I pinged. Yep, sure did. Had to double check. Yeah, that's been a thing of late. I've noticed people not getting the ping somehow. I wonder how. Like, I've noticed that that's been kind of a bit of a thing that's happening rather quite a lot. Might look into that. Maybe we can do some rejiggering of the role. If he loved you, then why did he send you away from home? Why did he never send you any letters? Ah, yep, that'll do it. You know he was worried about his finances, but that seems a poor excuse to pretend that his only daughter did not exist. As for your own mother, meanwhile, she was nice, at least you think she was, but she was woefully ineffectual. Though she was. Okay, game. Okay, game, I see you. Oh, that's fun. Though she was, nominally, an adult, she always cleaved before your father's judgment. You think that she was afraid of him. You do not try to tell the gravedigger, therefore, that her mother loved her, that she must have done, that she must have, else she would not have given birth to her. Instead, you sit there, letting the brush run through your hair, and you say, quietly, that you understand. Sometimes you feel like a disappointment yourself. Well, the gravedigger says, after a pause, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Guess it happens to all of us. You guess so. Parents are only people, after all. While one would hope one's parents would be kind and attentive, they too can fall victim to caprices of their own. Just because one has brought a child into this world does not mean one will be able to take care of it properly. Not all parents are responsible, just as not all people are responsible. It is a painful subject. Oh well, it's alright if my mother never liked me, or even if she never loved me. I know my father did. That's all that matters. He was always there for me, no matter what. Your companion's voice catches in her throat. She winces. At least, until he wasn't. He died. And I didn't do a thing to help him. Your companion's shoulders are starting to shake. You still cannot see her, but you can feel her body convulsing. You can sense her loneliness rolling off her in waves. It is all-consuming, like the waters of a deep, dark ocean. Grief anew pierces your heart, not on your behalf, but for the sake of your benefactress. She does not deserve to suffer so much. This, you have no qualms with telling her. You turn to face her and pluck the brush, which has been hovering in the air, inert, from her fingers. Then, you let her know that her father's death was not her fault. What could she have done? She could not have cured his illness. I know. I can't help but think, what if? Keep racking my head over and over, trying to come up with something. But I can't think of anything. Even if I could, it's too late. He's already dead. Dead and buried. I buried him. And now I'm all alone. She might have been alone, you tell the gravedigger, but she isn't now. Not anymore. How can she be when you were there? I know that. I know it. I'm grateful. I don't know if I deserve it. Why would she not deserve your company? You do not understand. Because I couldn't do nothing for nobody. Father always looked out for me when I was a little girl, but when he needed me the most, I failed him. I failed everyone. All the villagers, all my friends, all died. What would I do if the same thing happened to you? I don't think I could bear it. I don't want you getting sick too. Not when I care about you so much. Survivor's guilt is a fucking thing. It really and truly is. Like, I thought I'd gotten used to being on my own, but now that you're here, it's making me worry all over again. I've been worrying so much I can't sleep from it. I'm scared. Your companion's voice catches in her throat. Then she collapses in on herself. She leans forwards, her arms wound about her middle, as if to steady herself, and she cries. She cries, and she cries, and she cries. For a few moments, you look at the gravedigger, unsure of what to do. Her pale face, streaked with silvery tears, seems to flicker in the candlelight. Her shoulders, which seem too slender to bear the accumulative weight of all the sorrows she has endured, are shaking. No, it isn't. Not at all. Your fatigue continues to cling to you, as insistent as the fog which rolls amongst the tombstones in the graveyard at night. You are not so very tired, however. You cannot offer your hostess some comfort. You do not know what you can say to console her. You feel too weary to think of pretty sophisms. But there is something you can think of. You would not typically be so bold, of course, but you are tired enough, for once, to throw caution to the wind. That, and the tears of the gravedigger, are awfully arresting. Oh, that's lovely. You open your arms, and before the gravedigger can pass comment, you pull her to your chest. Oh! Soft exclamation escapes the lips of the gravedigger, quieter than the sound of wintry snow as it brushes the ground. Then there is nothing. The gravedigger is stiff in your arms for a few moments, like the corpses she and her father used to seal away inside their wooden coffins. She is all wide eyes and awkward, pointed elbows, tears still coursing down her pale cheeks. You worry briefly as you hold her that you have perhaps made a mistake. Were your attempts at consoling her too clumsy? You would not know. You've never been in a situation like this before. You have never consoled any friends before, because you've never had any friends to console. It is not so now, however. You are as far away from your old life as it is possible to be, and the gravedigger does not curse you for your impudence. Neither does she try to squirm away from you. Instead, she sits there, still as a statue, cradled in your arms. Oh, very sorry. She's so embarrassing. It's just, I get so lonely sometimes. Until, at long last, with a breathy sob, she lets the full weight of her body fall against yours. You run your hands against your sobbing companion's shoulder blades and back, and gently you soothe her. You tell her that she does not need to apologize. There is no shame in crying. You hug her for many, many minutes while she sobs against your chest, wetting the front of your nightgown. No further words pass between you that night, but they do not need to. Words are irrelevant in a moment as tender as this, shared between two souls who have come to understand one another through mutual loneliness. You slide beneath your sheets, you still feel exhausted, and the gravedigger joins you without asking for permission. It would be an unnecessary piece of politeness, really, given your acceptance is all but assured. You have already accepted the gravedigger after all, every single inch of her. Lewd? You have accepted her hospitality. Tundra. You have accepted her food. Now, you are accepting her company. You arrange yourself beneath the sheets and draw her body to yours. The gravedigger has not yet changed into her nightwear. Her clothes will be horribly rumpled when she awakes come the following morning, her head resting against your chest. But tomorrow has ceased to matter. It no longer exists. There is no concept of time between the two of you, no thought of the day which will dawn once this night inevitably ends. Instead, there is only the warmth shared between you and the wetness on the cheeks of the gravedigger. Could have been phrased better. There is the sound, irregular now and less intense than before, of your companion's muted, muffled sobs. Thank you, Tundra. There is this gentle, tender moment, snatched in the midst of a deep, dark night, which can never be replaced. Your eyelids feel heavy, as though weighted down with stones. They drop inexorably downwards, pulling you, like a drowning maiden, into the dark, impenetrable abyss of slumber. Welcome home, sinner. Welcome to hell. Our narrator spoke in the first person and we all got chills.
Penis flowers.
I love this man. I love this man. With his sagging pants and chiseled torso.
It is not that chiseled. Shut up.
Fuck you. This guy. This man has no shirt on. Woo, nice ass, Tundra says.
I feel I'm like more flat-chested than Natsuki.
I love the metaphors. Yes. I was stating earlier about Ebi Hime's vocabulary. The fact that I, my entire life, have considered myself very well read. And, like, the amount of words I have learned from Ebi throughout playing this has been absurd. And I love it. It's very humbling. Sinner, will you be staying?
It's dinner time, so.
We're going to take a break. This is probably a good point for it. I'm going to devour some food as fast as I fucking can, and we're going to come back to this. But this is probably a good spot to do it. So, we'll be back in just a couple minutes. Enjoy. D. getting in the way of his advertising. I'm kidding. I'm getting free advertisement right now. Just smile and nod. You're fine, you're fine, you're fine. Don't apologize, you're fine. Banter like that, though, is exactly what we all enjoy here. We pick because we care. Just like we care so very much about how this story ends. Yes! You're fine, Dee. You're fine, 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 fine. 100% fine. Okay. Now then, we continue. Your eyelids feel heavy, as though weighted down with stones. They droop inexorably downwards, pulling you, like a drowning maiden, into the dark, impenetrable abyss of slumber. You yawn. Then you fall asleep, cozied up beside the gravedigger like two cats in a basket. I like that. You sleep, and you sleep, and you sleep more deeply than you have allowed yourself in quite some time. Called it. Way to go, Libitina. Libitina wins this one. But when you awake, you find that you are no longer in the bed upon which you slept, shrouded by sheets. The gravedigger, too, is nowhere to be seen. Instead, you are quite alone, lying by yourself in the dark. There's breathing. Oh, I had to turn my monitor down so I could hear it. Oh. Ooh. It is chilly. Goodness, it is hot. It is also hot. I'll give you that. I'm gonna have to pull that down. Phew. Instead, you are quite alone, lying by yourself in the dark. You blink, but your surroundings do not become any clearer. Is it the middle of the night? Perhaps you were roused from your slumber by the desire to relieve yourself, or else to slake your thirst. Your sleep has been awfully disordered as of late, and the smallest of noises have been enough to disturb you. That does not sound quite right, though. You slept well, of that you are certain. Your body feels invigorated, as though it has slumbered for hours and hours. How many hours? You do not know. You do not know much of anything. You can feel a strange pinching sensation around your chest, however, and around your arms. It would appear as though somebody, but who else could it have been save the gravedigger, changed your attire while you were sleeping. That is a startling thought, but the darkness which it That is a startling thought, but the darkness which entombs you is even more so. The darkness which surrounds you is unsettlingly complete. It is so thick you cannot penetrate it. Your newfound woes do not stop, however, at this deep, unnatural darkness. It is cold, too, and you are lying upon something hard, some sort of a stone slab. What is going on? You reach out, but your movements are soon stymied. There is something heavy lying atop you, something that is limiting your movements. You were anxious before upon awaking, but at this discovery, you feel downright aggrieved. A sharp prong of panic pierces you, but you try to suppress it. Yep. Libitina called it. Hysterics will get you nowhere. In most cases, they only tend to make bad situations even worse. You ought to know that already. You swallow your mounting dread as best you can, though it is coming on thick and fast, and try to squirm. You move your arms outwards, but they do not get very far. There is a wall above you, and walls on either side of you, walls which do not budge no matter how hard you push. Not, I must add, that you can push particularly hard, your anxious state notwithstanding. You have never had much in the way of upper body strength, nor lower body strength. You do not have much in the way of strength at all. You feel quite helpless as you lie there, out of breath from your meager exertions, unsure of what you should do. You can hardly see a foot in front of your face. Yep. Because Libitina fucking called it. You do not know where you are, nor why, but a terrible premonition is beginning to bear down upon you, one which, initially, you tried to discard. You did not want to accept it as a possibility, but where else could the truth lie? You are lying in a box, hemmed in by walls which offer only a scant few inches for you to stretch in any direction. She is. Where else could you be but a coffin? The moment you allow yourself to ponder this awful reality is the moment you hear it, the irregular sound of drumming. It is as though somebody, though they must be a very large somebody, is tapping their fingertips upon the lid of your coffin. That, or it is raining. It is not the fingers of a giantess, though, which is disturbing you, nor is it falling rain. It is dirt. The sound continues on and on, as though it is drilling its way inside your skull. It is relentless. It is merciless, like the ticking of a great celestial clock. It cannot be stopped. Your time is almost running out. But you knew that already, didn't you, when you were running through the forest? You ought to have known, silly thing, that you could not outpace your destiny forever. Sooner or later, it would catch up with you. You are stubborn, though, and you do not want to accept this. Yep. Not content to simply lie there, you cry out. You cry not for your parents, whom you hardly knew, nor for your school friends, for you never had any. Instead, you cry out for your new companion, the girl with whom you've been living, and with whom you shared one precious, cherished moment. You cry out for the gravedigger. Surely this is some manner of mistake. Once she realizes that you are, in fact, entombed in one of the coffins she is currently filling, for who else would be moving the dirt above you? She will cease her operations at once. She will pull you out of the darkness back into the world of the living, and then she will hold you close. She will embrace you. She cannot mean to cause you any harm. Not when she was so good to you, so kind. Why would she bury you? You cry to her so loudly you fear your vocal cords might tear, all while banging against the roof of your compact prison. You cry desperately, helplessly, and to your relief, your cries do not fall upon deaf ears. Okay, we'll hold for Zoe to get through ads. God, this is good. This is so good. I want to meet the narrator, God damn it. When this story is over, I want to meet the narrator. Yeah, I always hold for folks that have to suffer through ads, so I salute you. I mean, take into consideration the fact that she literally buried everyone in her village. Single-handedly. Like... Immersed? Good. That's the idea. Welcome back. Whoops. God damn it. You cry desperately, helplessly, and to your relief, your cries do not fall upon deaf ears. The sound of the falling soil stops, albeit briefly. Then you hear a voice. Sinner, thank you for the gifted sub, sweetie. There you go, Zoe. Enjoy a month, no ads. Then you hear a voice. The voice is very faint, given it's being filtered through your coffin's sturdy lid. But you recognize it. There she goes with that phrase. So, you're white then, are you, dear one? The gravedigger says. She sighs. Then she says in a perplexed sort of voice. Now, that is a pickle. I was hoping you'd be asleep for a couple hours more, so the last time we spoke could have been on better terms. If you keep screaming like that, I'm going to feel bad. Your companion's words, though distant, are unmistakable. You are so tense, you are attuned to every single syllable, and each of them makes you gasp. I've already done 2 of those, so I can't do another one, but yeah. Was this not a mistake? Does she truly mean to bury you alive? You posit this question to the gravedigger as best you can, trying to keep the tremors from your voice as you do. Right? Look, Yandere's right. We're a passionate people trademark, and we are not known for anything if but being completely mentally unstable. Perhaps you think, in your optimism, that if you do not let her know how afraid you are, she will reward you for your bravery and let you go. If this is what you were hoping, though, it is in vain. That's right. You really do catch on quick. So, it would appear she really has committed to the task of burying you. What an unfortunate turn of events. Why, though, would she do such a thing? You thought that she was your friend. We are friends, the gravedigger says, her voice still worryingly offhand, worryingly empty. I'm very fond of you. There's nobody dearer to me than you. I've had a really good time with you these last... how long's it been again? I don't remember. Neither do you. Well, this little detail has slipped both of your minds. It can't be all that important. You have other things to worry about. If you really are friends, you say to the gravedigger, then what does she hope to gain by burying you? You do not understand. But you understand her reply even less. Well, here's the thing. See, the thing was... Here's the thing, the gravedigger says, in a reasonable sort of voice, as though burying somebody alive could ever be thought of as a reasonable action. I've been digging graves for a long time, see? You cannot see. It is too dark. But you affirm that you do, all the same. Well, I was digging all these graves, but I've not had anybody to put them in. Not for ages. It was rather sad. You think you know where this train of logic, twisted though it is, might be going, so you do not interrupt her. You know no good would come of it. All you can do, for the present, is lie there and listen. I was thinking I'd never find another person to bury in this godforsaken village. Not after the plague messed everything up. I was getting desperate. Until you came along, that is. Now that I have somebody I can bury, I'm not going to let the opportunity pass me by. I'm sorry, but this is just part of my job. It's what my father taught me to do. It's all I know how to do. I buried my mother and I buried my father. Buried all my friends. Now, I'm going to bury you too. Hey, Soldat! Welcome, welcome, welcome. Ah, yes, I have the opportunity to bury someone is my new hobby. Welcome, Soldat. How you doing, buddy? That's an original MO for a serial killer. You're not wrong. Also, she's taking over. I can feel it. She's taking over. God, make it stop. It is. That's what's happening, is burying people alive. You were unwittingly relating to our villain here. Albeit unwittingly. But welcome, Soldat. So glad you're here, friend. It's always great to see you. It is sound logic, in a sense. As the daughter of a gravedigger, digging graves is her job. But something about it rankles you. We are playing It Gets So Lonely here, a visual novel submitted to the 2023 Yandere Jam. If only you could put your finger on it. Ah, yes. Diffoob. Ah, yes. There is a bit of a flaw with her reasoning, is there not? You are not dead, after all. Well, yeah, I mean, she buried everybody once they had died to the plague. Well, it wouldn't be lonely if you didn't cannibalize, drown, or bury everyone you meet. You know what, honey? That's a good point. That's a very good point. Oh, God. You are not dead, after all. You might not be dead now, the gravedigger says in response to your ingenuity. But you will be, if given enough time. Jesus Christ. Right? I wonder. I mean, everybody else I've ever known's died. Who's to say you wouldn't be next? Yeah. See, that's the thing. That's the thing. It seems rather more likely that you will die, and quickly, if she persists with her poorly thought out plan to bury you. Trauma response exactly so. 100%. Your coffin is not very large. It affords you precious little space. Eventually, if trapped within it for long enough, you will run out of oxygen. Then you will suffocate. That, or you will starve to death. Either way, your demise will be a slow, painful one. You are unsure which death would be worse, though, given how precarious your situation is, you do not wish to expend the necessary energy needed to ponder it. You need to plead with the gravedigger, and quickly, while she is still here. You tell her tearfully that you would not leave her. Why would you? Right? Also true, yeah. Yeah, suffocation is definitely what would happen first, which is not a way to die. Not a good one, anyway. You try to sound as convincing as your disordered nerves will allow, but the gravedigger remains unmoved. You say that, she says, but how can I know you're telling the truth? I thought you said you were a traveler. They never stay put in one place for long. You'd get sick of me before long, then you'd leave me. In this way, at least, I can be assured that we'll always stay together. Really? That sounds awful to me. Like, I am not keen on that route any more than I am suffocation, because essentially, if you think about it, they're kind of the same thing. If I bury you like I did the others, we'll never be far apart. I even took care to put you in a nice spot, close to my home, so you're only a stone's throw away, really. Oh, God, Libitina, Jesus. Oh, I'm glad you're still here with us. Drowning and suffocation, you lose consciousness before most of the pain. The panic is the worst of it. Isn't that nice? Privately, you think that the gravedigger has a different conception of the word nice to you. I mean, none of it's good, guys. None of it's good. None of it's fucking good. You do not say this, however. You cannot say much of anything, because the panic has begun to set in. It is choking you, stopping up your throat, so you can only cry. I know about that story. Right? Probably a good call, Sinner. But yes, I recently encountered, yep. It was just a terrible, awful story. But it was definitely, like, exactly. Okay, we're moving on. You scream, you beg, and you plead, but it does little good. Gravedigger has already buried her mother. She's already buried her little brothers. She's even buried her father, whom she loved above all else. She thinks, by burying you, she is doing unto you an act of great kindness. You think that she is going to kill you. In a sense, you are both right. Your opinions are so diametrically opposed on this matter, however, that you will never be able to find any common ground. You might as well save your screaming. She will not listen to you. She is beyond listening. Shh, dear one, says the gravedigger very gently, just as gently as she spoke last night, when she could find it in you all of her fears. It won't be so bad, really. Nothing'll be able to hurt you down there. Her logic. It'll just be like going to sleep for a really, really long time. You can rest, and while you rest, I'll tend to you. I'll plant flowers on your grave. You'd like that, wouldn't you? I mean, this way we can always be together, and I'll never be lonely again. While the gravedigger speaks, she begins to pile even more soil onto the roof of your coffin. The sound of the dirt on top of you, your arms, your legs, and your head conceals your companion's final words. You cannot hear her. You cannot hear anything beyond the sounds of the dirt and the scrapings of the shovel and your own desperate, frantic screams. You scream, and you scream, and you scream without cease until your throat feels hoarse. But your efforts are in vain. You hammer on the lid of the coffin with as much strength as you can muster, but the lid of the coffin is nailed shut. You are in no position to remove it. All you can do is lie there, screaming and crying and banging your fists on the roof of the coffin over and over as more dirt and debris falls on top of you. Eventually, enough dirt falls on you to stifle your screams for good. The gravedigger can no longer hear you, and you can no longer hear her. You are all alone, trapped in a narrow wooden box, which, regardless of what you want, is now your new home. You can smell the soil in the backs of your nostrils when you inhale. It is so potent, you can taste it on your tongue. You can taste the eventual, inevitable decay of your own body. You will remain trapped here, underground, forever and ever. Or, to use less melodramatic terms, until the last of your energy escapes you and you succumb to your own slow suffocation. It isn't a very pleasant way to go. But you'll forgive me if my sympathy is limited. You did bring this upon yourself, you know. You reap what you sow, and in your case, you made a series of bad decisions which led to your untimely demise. Now, here it comes, guys. Now, what do you want to do? Will you accept this fate of yours and rest in peace? Or will you try to fight against it? No. Are you not happy with the hand that fate has dealt you? Very well. I cannot blame you. It is quite a grim ending. I would not wish it upon my worst enemy, and you are rather dearer to me than that. Now, why don't we give this another go? Just try not to be buried alive this time. I can only endure so much of your screaming. Your fate is once again in your hands. Now, I wonder, which path will you take? I was wondering what would happen when we no longer had any other options. Ooh, boy. Oh. Yeah, it probably would have triggered by now, but I'm going to give it another second because that's a very good observation. What if I... Nope. Okay. I tried clicking all around. Okay, narrator. You guys ready to meet this bitch? So, you've come back here, have you? That does not come as much of a surprise. Though presented with 3 potential paths, it is not as though traversing any of them would have any particular impact on your ultimate fate. In the end, you were always destined to return here. Did you really think you had a choice? How hopelessly naive of you. I thought that you were smarter than that. Your breath, which once escaped your lips in sharp, ragged gasps, is now on the verge of petering out altogether. Your lungs feel deflated, as though they have been punctured. Your blood is rushing through your temples in a heady, overwhelming surge. Your stomach, meanwhile, has twisted itself up into knots. Your body feels heavy, your legs in particular. They no longer wish to obey you. You take a stumbling step forwards, and your foot gets caught in a tree root. You are certain that you passed this route once already, and that you sidestepped it. But perhaps your memory is beginning to fail you, just like the rest of your body. You gasped, surprised, and pitch forwards. Dull and senseless, like a sack full of potatoes. Your arm hits the ground with a crack, one which makes you cry out in pain. Tears begin to bead on your eyes, wet and salty, tears which you cannot stymie. You are not as resilient as the gravedigger, nor as carefree as the princess. If you lived underwater like the mermaid, then nobody, at the very least, would be able to tell you were crying. But you do not, and I can. Believe me, I can. Your arm aches dreadfully, but at least you can still feel it. Your poor feet, meanwhile, have gone quite numb. You would try to stand, had you the energy, but you know, as you sit there, dazed, that this would be a futile effort. You cannot stand, not any longer. It hurts too much. You really have been through a lot tonight, haven't you? I fear I have not been very kind to you. But you ought to be accustomed to hardship. Why then are you crying? You always have been a crybaby. That is why they teased you so much. It is because they knew they would be guaranteed a reaction. You are very predictable. Even now, after you tried to borrow my power for your own purposes, you have not changed at all. As you sit there, sobbing, you hear, or you think you can hear, footsteps approaching you. There to your right is the snapping of a twig. To your left, the telltale rustle of leaves. Your every sense feels razor sharp, honed to a knife's point by anxiety. You are so panicked, you feel as though you were going to be sick. If you want to vomit, then why not? There is no shame in it. There is nobody here to judge you. Nobody but me. I've always been here, you know. I will always be here, no matter how fast you try to run or how far. Did you really think you could escape me? I've been running from the narrator this whole time. Oh my God. Poor, sweet child. Poor little fool. I did tell you, did I not? The contract with a witch is binding. No amount of physical distance between the both of us could ever sever it. I told you I would never let you be lonely. and I meant it. But I have had rather enough of these little games. It is time for me to collect my collateral. She's hot. Guys, she's fucking hot. I'm okay with this. Take me. I'm okay with this. Take me, I'm yours. I mean, once you strip those things off, they're not going to be there anymore, therefore they're not a problem, right? A soft gasp escapes your throat as you feel arms wind their way around your back. Naturally, you know whose arms they are. They are mine. I've been watching you all night, but this is the first time I have reached out to you in so direct a manner. Wait a minute. Ha ha. I see that. How intriguing. That's fascinating. Did you not expect me to be so forward? I can hear your heart fluttering in your chest. It is beating very quickly, like a startled rabbit's. Your breaths are short and sharp. It's a cold night, and though I am holding you, you are still shaking. I wish you would not tremble so. Everybody fears the unknown. But we are not strangers. We have spoken before, have we not? When you first called me forth from the ether, using that book you found in the library. Oh, this is getting entirely too familiar. You were desperate enough then to turn to the occult for help. You pleaded with me to use my magic for your behalf. You begged me. You implored, and you entreated, and you wheedled, and you whined, and though I had some reservations, you forced my hand. I had no choice, not in the face of your desperation. You did not want to be lonely anymore. You wanted to have a friend, somebody who would always be there for you, no matter what. You wanted somebody to love you. Is that not what you demanded of me? Is that not what I have given you? You might think me wicked, but I think you are being awfully cruel yourself. To run from me after I made all of your wishes come true. I did think, about punishing you for running away from me. I thought of poking out your eyes so that you might never see anybody other than me. I thought of cutting off your long, lovely hair so that nobody might ever think you beautiful but me. I thought of breaking your legs so that you might never be able to escape from me. I turned all of these intriguing ideas over in my mind. But I am a merciful witch. Though you hurt me, I do not wish to hurt you. You asked, after all, that I love you, and that is what I did. I have drowned you in my love. I have buried you beneath my love. I have swallowed you with my love. You have always been a sad, lonely girl, one who has been starved of affection. Nobody has ever cared for you. Your life has been a barren, empty wasteland, one devoid of any fonder feelings. That is why I had to drown you, you see. That is why I had to bury you. It is why I had to swallow you. In the end, I was doing you a favor. I was doing it all for you. In that sense, you are very lucky. You know that. There are few people in the world who have had the privilege of being loved to the brink of insanity quite this many times in one night. Yes, on the first route, we were in the care of a princess who cannibalized us. Yeah, I know. Authentic movie-going experience and all. Editing that out in post is gonna get fun. There are few people in the world who can claim to have been loved by a witch. You have experienced so much love, it ought to have slaked even your unquenchable thirst. You know now what it feels like to be adored. I have more than upheld my end of the bargain. Now, I think it is time that you do the same. Right? And it was, believe me, it was nothing but. It was a fantastic ending. I thoroughly enjoyed doing it because I like disturbing shit. A lot like this. From this night forth, you and I will always be together. Then I shall be able to love you endlessly. You will never be lonely again. Oh. Oh. My fucking God, Abby. This was for a game jam. Yandere jam. Yes. So much yes. I am blown away. Like, I'm gonna click this little button. Okay. Why am I just now finding out about Ebby? If Ebby's such a big name, I want to do everything they make. Because, oh God. Hello everyone, this is Abby. Thank you for taking the time to read It Gets So Lonely Here. I hope it was an enjoyable experience. It was! Libitina, are you okay? Ah, some company hired this person. Yes! Could not agree more. Like, seriously, this person needs to do this. I usually leave a few notes in my VNs to explain what inspired me. Bless you. So I guess I'll do that now. The biggest inspiration behind It Gets So Lonely Here was the... fuck, she goes on. Oh, Ebby. Oh, Ebby. The biggest inspiration. She needs to be, bruh. The biggest inspiration behind It Gets So Lonely Here was the two-part novel series, The Orphan's Tales by Catherine Valente. The Orphan's Tales are an interesting couple of novels which take a lot of cues from fairy tales and folklore across the world. These stories contain dragons, witches, werewolves, genies, and mermaids, but they aren't told in a linear fashion. The Orphan's Tales itself is pulling a lot in terms of structure from 1001 Nights, because the story is broken up into a lot of smaller bite-sized stories which are set in a framing narrative. These bite-sized stories seem unrelated at first, but they eventually converge by the end of the second novel, and it's revealed that the framing narrative itself is steeped in as much magic as the stories the narrator, well, there are numerous narrators, were spinning. It's a very interesting series which is told in a very non-conventional manner, with a lot of stories running into other stories, seemingly jumbled, jumping between stories and such. alongside characters from previous tales, offering their perspective and assuming narrative roles in future tales. Narrative can be a bit difficult to keep track of in the beginning, but because it hops around a lot between a lot of different characters, we're all embarking upon fantastical adventures of their own. But seeing all these seemingly disparate threads merge was very satisfying. I've honestly not read a book like it before. It took a lot of well-known fairy tales and some lesser-known fairy tales and did something unique with them. It was very avant-garde. In any case, I liked Orphan's Tales enough that I wanted to write something similar. I thought it would be fun to craft a story of my own comprised of multiple different fairy tales all wrapped up in a framing narrative. I turned this idea over in my head for about 2 or 3 years, but didn't have any concrete ideas, so I wound up shelving it. It wasn't until the 2023 Yandere Game Jam that I decided to revisit this idea. I was doing a bit of brainstorming, jotting down random concepts for a story which could work, and I decided I wanted to write a Yandere story with a fairy tale vibe. I had a few desperate ideas, but nothing which felt substantial enough to carry a whole narrative. I was also torn between writing the princess's story or the gravedigger's story as standalone narratives. I like both of them conceptually, but they seemed a bit too simple. Then it struck me, why not combine these ideas? I thought this would be a fun project to work on, and it would be especially suitable for the visual novel medium. The Orphan's Tales is a novel, so the reader doesn't have any say in what fairy tales they visit as they read through the text, well, unless said reader decides to flip about to random pages, like a fighting fantasy novel, which maybe wouldn't be a bad way to experience a book which was written in a deliberately disjointed way. So the reader gets pulled through a lot of seemingly unrelated stories at random until things start to come together. Visual novels are known for having routes, however, even the most generic... I don't know that word. Nope. Maybe? People expect multiple stories when reading visual novels, and it's a fairly common phenomenon for characters to get a spotlight in their own route, but be sidelined, or in extreme cases disappear from the narrative altogether in other characters' routes. By writing this fairy tale pastiche as a visual novel, I figured it would feel more natural to section these short stories I had into their own self-contained routes, which only converge once you've read all of them. I was pretty excited about this idea, but I only had 2 stories on hand, the princess's story and the gravedigger story. I thought having only 2 routes would feel rather meager, so I decided to add a third route, that of the mermaids. The gravedigger story and the princess's story were both pulled from ideas I've been turning over for a while already. I might revisit the princess's story at some point and make a longer Yuri visual novel with a similar premise someday. But the mermaid story was one I thought of mostly to make up numbers for this project. As such, I think the mermaid story feels a little less inspired than the gravediggers or the princesses. I'm inclined to agree, honestly. And it also features the least dialogue between the main character and her so-called love interest. You're right. I think the mermaid's route is the weakest story, narratively speaking, but I do like the aesthetics of her story a lot. I think her character design is very pretty, and I think she wound up with the most appealing character theme song. Plus, since I'd committed to the fairy tale theme, I really did want to write a love interest who wasn't a human. I thought it'd be a bit boring to have a fairy tale themed VN when all the routes deal with human girls, so the mermaid's existence brings a bit more magic into the story. I designed these 3 character routes to be relatively short on purpose. Firstly, because this VN was created for a game jam, and I didn't want to overburden myself with writing 3 long, complex routes in a month. And secondly, because I wanted the story to feel vague, unfixed, and ethereal. It was this desire which resulted in the main character not having any direct dialogue, the details of her past being so sparse and fragmented, and it's also why none of the characters have names. I wanted the characters to feel more like fairy tale archetypes rather than, well, characters, which is why they get referred to by their roles in the story as opposed to names. The princess remains the princess, the mermaid is the mermaid, and the gravedigger is... Well, gravediggers aren't a common character archetype in fairy tales at all, are they? At least I don't think I've encountered any who had prominent roles. I guess she's a bit of an outlier then. Her character and her design were mostly inspired by Grey. From Lord Elmoy's case files. But she's cute, so it's okay, right? I also wanted I also decided to write this story in second person, which is something I've only done once before and sparingly in Once on a Windswept Night. I want to read it. I don't write in second person very much since it's an unusual method of storytelling in general, but I thought it would add to the overall atmosphere of the story. Having a faceless narrator address you as you feels a bit more unsettling, I think, than first or third person narration, which are more standard. Though I suppose by the end of the story, the narrator isn't so faceless after all. Since the narrator is a character in her own right, and she does occasionally offer her own thoughts and remarks upon the events of the story, would that make the narration first person instead? I wonder. The use of the second person narration was also inspired in part by Slay the Princess by Abby Howard, which is a visual novel with rather unusual presentation, which I enjoyed a lot. I also pulled some inspiration from Optimal Conditions for a Sacrifice by Mosinasi, which has a looping narrative like the one present in It Gets So Lonely Here. Lots of meta elements and very beautiful artwork. I want to play that too. Mosinasi actually agreed to work with me on the art for It Gets So Lonely Here, which made me even more excited about this project. I think her art is gorgeous, and it really captures the fairy tale aesthetic I was going for. I'm very honored she agreed to work with me. I could probably say more things about the story, but that's enough for now. Once again, I hope you enjoyed your time spent with it. I did. Though, if you check the art gallery, isn't there a picture which is still locked? I wonder why that could be. Maybe you should go through the story again. You might find something that'll surprise you. What? Excuse me? I'm sorry? Bro. Holy. What? Excuse me? I beg your pardon? What? Okay. Uh-huh. Oh, the completionist in me is very triggered. So here's what we're going to do. Bingo. Here's what we're going to do. On my own time, probably early tomorrow, I'm going to try this again. In the event I reach dialogue that I am unfamiliar with, then we will finish said dialogue during tomorrow's stream. Otherwise, it'll be Everlasting Summer. But, secret ending? Maybe? It might not be. It could literally just be like a couple of extra text boxes like, thank you for really enjoying this, or whatever. But it might not be. But I will find that out between now and tomorrow's stream. And depending upon what I discover, that will dictate what we're streaming tomorrow. But in the meantime, that is going to do it for today. Wow. God. Maybe you want me to send you the... Yes, please, pretty please. I would love that. Yes. That would, yes, please. But that's going to do it for today. Thank you all so much for joining me for this unbelievable ride. And I look forward to sharing more amazing experiences with you guys. But until then, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and ring those bells. That's all I have for today. Thanks for listening. Now hang tight and we'll get you on to your next stream. Bye-bye, everyone.